Guys, we're so excited for the topic we have today. We finally paid off our car debt. $609.15 a month for every month, which seemed like went on forever, but it's finally done.
When we made this car purchase, we were not on our financial independence journey. So we made a lot of mistakes and paid thousands more than we should have. In this video, we're going to cover those mistakes, and hopefully you guys can learn some tools to help you save money on your next car purchase in the future. Stay tuned.
Hi guys,
I'm Tatine.
And I'm John.
Welcome back to our channel, Millennial Fire.
So let's dive right into these mistakes we made in purchasing the vehicle. Well, let me set the stage for you first. So we're a recently married couple at the time. We had just paid off our student loans of $36,000 and we paid them off in like a year and a half. So we were feeling ourselves. We were feeling really good about ourselves. And at the time we had two vehicles. Neither one of these vehicles had air conditioning that worked properly. Which, it may be okay for some people and in some parts of the country, but we live in Orlando, Florida, and having no AC is horrible. So me trying to be the great husband that I wanted to be, I was like, there's no way my queen is driving with no AC, so we're going to get a car right now. So we didn't go get a car that day. What we did was went through the process of getting approved for a loan from a bank. And we got approved for a car loan for $25,000. And so this brings us to mistake number one. We purchased more car than we needed. What do I mean by buying more car than we need? Well, if you guys remember from the story that we just told you, there were only really two criteria that we needed in a car. One was that it needed to be reliable, because of course my queen can't be stranded on the side of the road. Two is that it needed to have air conditioning because it's super hot in Florida. And so we researched some vehicles and we actually found a vehicle that met those two needs and quite a few wants as well. And it cost around $16,000 or $17,000. I think it was a 2014 Camry that we had seen. And so, no, it was 2013.
Yeah, that's what I thought
it was. Definitely 2013. So we went to the dealership and we actually purchased the car where the sticker price was $27,000.
Just a disclaimer, this was my car, and I was okay with the 2013 Camry for around the $16,000 to $17,000 price point. But he was like, babe, just look at the new car. They got a new body this year. Just check it out. And I was like, okay, I'll check it out. But that was our mistake, because once I checked it out, I was in love. Like, there was no turning back.
And so with that, we bought a car that was way more than what we needed. We had a car that would have been completely suitable for us in the 2013 model, but the newer model, it just looked really nicer and it had a fancy little touchscreen that we barely ever used, but
I actually do use it.
That she kind of uses, and it had all those things in it, but it was $10,000 more. And if you guys also remember, we were only approved for $25,000 for the bank. And so we were definitely at this point shopping outside of our needs for the car.
So our second mistake is buying unnecessary warranties. We spent over $4,700 on warranties. $4,700. Like, that's like insane when you think about it. Because if that was $4,700 in cash, it would be that wouldn't even be a consideration that we would take. But because it was finance, it didn't feel as much. Mm-hmm. And so that was definitely a mistake that we made. Out of all the insurances that we bought through the dealer, the only insurance that we still kind of stand by is the gap insurance. The gap insurance that we paid for this vehicle was $799, which it's possible that it was maybe a little bit higher than we would have spent if we had just gotten gap insurance with our own car insurance. So that's something what we would recommend. Before buying gap insurance on your vehicle through the dealer, make sure you check how much it is with your insurance company, because you may end up having a bit of savings there.
Hi guys, just wanted to take a quick moment to define gap insurance. I realized that we didn't go into detail of what a gap insurance actually is. So gap insurance is an insurance that's provided to help you make up the difference of what you owe in a car in the case that you total a car. So an example would be, let's imagine that we bought a new car and we agreed to pay $10,000 for this new car. We own this car for 2 years and we owe $8,000 on it. If we wreck the car at that point may actually be valued at a lot less than $8,000 because in the first 2 years is when cars depreciate the most. And that's why it's actually best to buy a used car because new vehicles, the first 2 years, you lose a lot of money in value that you agree to pay. So if this case happens and you total your car may only be worth $6,000, but you still owe $8,000. Your car insurance may cover that initial $6,000, but the gap insurance makes up that difference of the $6,000 to $8,000. So the gap insurance covers that additional $2,000.
Um, and a tip that my dad gave me a long time ago, which I wish I had used in this situation, is that he has a philosophy that he never buys warranties. And all the money that he saves from never buying warranties, if there's ever something that breaks or an issue that arises with any of the appliances or the vehicles that he buys, then all that money he would have saved by never buying warranties, he would have enough to pay to fix whatever the problem is. And so that is definitely a tip that we have gotten from my dad that we failed to use during this purchase, but we will definitely keep in the future. And out of all the warranties that we use, other than the gap insurance, which we still didn't even use that anyways, but all the other insurances that we got, not one of them we got any value from. And even one of them that we tried to tap into, there was fine print that said, "Oh, we can only fix your paint or your dents if it was caused by hail." Really, in Florida, hail? So that was definitely a mistake that we made and that we hope that you will never make.
Mm-hmm. At this point, you guys probably noticed that this number right here is a bit higher than $25,000. And so, if you guys remember at the beginning of the video, we told you that we were approved with Bank of America for purchasing a car for $25,000. But obviously, we're above that amount. So, how do we get stuck in this situation? So, what happened is that we were attempting to negotiate with the dealer, and they discovered that we had financing with someone else, and that financing wouldn't allow us to purchase this vehicle. So they were like, "Oh, no problem at all. We'll give you the same interest rate, and we'll give you as much financing as you need to purchase this vehicle." So that's what allowed us to throw on all these warranties, to purchase a car that was above the finance rate in the first place. So that's just another mistake that we made, that we took the dealer's financing and continued just to pile on and go over our numbers that we were ready to pay for when we initially got to the dealership. And this brings me to my final and most important mistake. The final and most important mistake at the time was honestly a mistake of ignorance, but it was making this purchase without the goal of financial independence in mind. The reason why I say this is because after we left out the dealership with this brand new car that had never been driven, 0 miles outside of our test driving miles that we had on it, we had committed to a payment of $609.15 for 60 months, which is 5 years. If you guys remember what financial independence is, we are attempting to get our passive income to exceed our expenses. And at that point, we had increased our expenses over $7,000 a year for 5 years, which sent us in reverse in reaching financial independence. We just didn't know it at the time. And so we encourage you guys to think about every purchase that you make with financial independence in mind. Now, this isn't to say that you have to be frugal and live a miserable life and never buy anything that you want. But what we're asking you to do is properly prioritize your wants versus financial independence. We know that you need your needs, so that's no question. If you need something, purchase it. But if you start to fall into the area of wanting something that you don't need, ask yourself, is purchasing this thing worth more than my potential early retirement or my potential financial independence? Is spending this $10,000 more on a nicer and sleeker looking car or a touchscreen thing that I still promise we rarely ever use, but is that worth more than spending our lives together in financial independence earlier than having that car? So we challenge you guys just to think about recent purchases that you've made in your life, or think about future purchases that you're going to be making. Maybe you're going to buy a car. Maybe you're going to buy a house. Maybe you're just going out to a very expensive dinner. I don't know why I always bring this back to food. I'm always hungry. Sorry, guys. But think about how that would affect your end goal of financial independence, because we want to see everyone reach financial independence.
And a little exercise that we do that I think it's a good thing to do is whenever there's any purchase that you are contemplating making, you see something, let's say on QVC, that you're like, oh, that looks really good. Like, I think I need this in my life. And you see that it costs, I don't know, $100 to buy this item that you think will make you happier. Write it down and use a 72-hour rule. Let 72 hours go by and go back to the list of things you have written down and see if you still have that same passion for what you think you want. And if that passion is not really there anymore, then you know that you're okay without it. But if you go back to that list and you still have that same desire that this is something that I really think will add to my life, then go ahead and purchase it. And there's a lot of things that, unnecessary purchases that can be avoided that way. In this car that we bought, if we had used that rule, if we had gone back home, slept on it, waited 72 hours, and came back, all of these warranties that we bought, all of the price that we spent on the vehicle, we probably would have made a better decision on all of that.
Definitely. And thank you for bringing it up, because that is one of our favorite rules that we now have as a pillar and a standard in our marriage. And with that rule, you'll be met with a lot of opposition to say that, no, you got to do this thing right now.
They definitely will try to make you feel like you will never get a deal again if you leave right then and there. But it's all a bluff because they want to make a sale.
Exactly.
So to recap, the mistakes we made in this purchase of our vehicle that we finally own, free and clear, is 1, buying more car than we needed. 2, buying unnecessary warranties. 3, spending more than our pre-approved financing was. And 4, buying our car without financial independence in mind.
So we hope that this video really helps you guys moving forward in the future to make a purchase on a car and to save some money where we lost money. And it's time for the question of the day. Have you guys made any mistakes in buying your vehicles that you feel will help someone else in our community? Can you type that below in the comments and let's share?
And if you guys haven't subscribed already, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. And we'll see you guys next week.
See you next time.